Hello. I'm back from the dead. Um, Lovely to, well, not see you, but hopefully it's lovely for you to hear my voice in new and improved audio quality. And I finally managed to download OBS Studio, so hopefully you're also enjoying a more high quality visual than you previously did in my videos. Um, this video is talking about the new Invitational online tournament that I've been kindly invited to. It's run by Pascal, aka Smith Family, who is the lovely yet also very talented Belgian um, ETC player, and he's quite big in the community. You can see even here in his tag, he was a big part of the Dread Elf Legendary Army book team. He wrote the previous, I think the pre current version Sylvan Elf book when we were still in the dark old days of Ninth Age, and just has been playing UB since it was basically just smashing pixels together. So I've known him for quite some time, including we did a showcase battle report back in the day on UB when the gold version of the core rulebook first dropped. So that's like going on 4 years ago. He very politely embarrassed me in a showcase game there where I basically just tripped over myself, and he was like, "Hey, I wrote this Wood Elf book," and die. Anyway, that's the first tangent of the day. So he's put together here what he's calling the SmithF 2021 Invitational, and you can see here it's a very, very small pool of people. These are the entrants and their online handles, and basically the idea, as he puts it here, is to bring together the content creators from across the world to produce 5 fun games of Ninth Age and produce content. So all of these guys here, that much like myself with my YouTube channel, they're all battle reporters or content producers. Like Young Seward is Max from here in Australia, in Sydney. He has a YouTube channel as well, currently competing with me for the worst possible thumbnail covers. Henry Miller, I don't know personally, but I know he has a podcast in the UK. Matty P, the same. This is the Paired Weapons guys where I was previously featured. Vespasian is a lovely fella from the US who, along with Swamp Swimmer, also has a YouTube channel called Glory of Golden State Gaming, I want to say. Shitsu, I know, has a very active battle report blog on the Demon Legions forum. He's a very talented French player. I've really enjoyed following his list trials over the last couple of years. I don't think I've managed to steal any of his ideas yet because I got too distracted with my own. But apart from that, I think Omar and I know Skaven in AZ. I think AZ Arizona here. I think this is Chris Hines. We actually played last year, and it was quite funny because it was like 11 o'clock at night at my place in Brisbane, Australia, and I was sweating. And meanwhile, it was 5 o'clock in the morning where he was, and it was snowing outside. So it was just like this battle of different climates. Lovely American fella as well. Everyone. Oh, and Sergrim is obviously Alex Schmidt, who basically has been running all of the online teams tournaments. I don't know a lot of the other guys, I confess, and I'm honestly, I think apart from Max and Chris Hines, I haven't actually played any of these guys before, so I have no idea like what skill level this is going to be. Um, but I'm really interested to see. I confess I almost dropped out of this event just because my enthusiasm for online gaming hasn't been particularly high lately. So the fact that it's Smith really incentivized me to participate here, and the format is a little bit different and funky, as I'll explain in a moment. So I'm glad I submitted in the end. Each of these rounds is spaced 2 weeks apart, which means that this tournament is going to go on for 10 weeks, which is a long time. Because normally what happens in these online events is after 3 weeks, you feel like changing your list. I'm hoping this isn't going to be the case. One, because you're kind of changing your list after every game, and the other thing is that I haven't got a lot of other gaming planned in between now and the end of the year anyway. So hopefully this is gonna, I'm going to stay motivated for this event and not get distracted by other things along the way. But we'll see how it goes. The other reason I actually wanted to participate in this is to actually have a little bit of pressure to produce some content for you guys, because I do enjoy obviously making these videos and sharing my thoughts with the world, and I know you guys get a kick out of it as well. So here we are. Without further ado, let's jump in and talk a little bit about the format. So he's encouraging people to bring, I wouldn't say funky or non-competitive lists. I can't enforce bad choices. But he does want people to just have a little bit of a creative flair and play something that you wouldn't normally take at a tournament. I haven't actually looked through the lists in detail yet. There's a couple missing, and there will be a dedicated thread for this event on the forum. So I think I'll share the link with you guys in the comments. It's not live yet because there's a couple of people dragging their feet with list submission, but I'll share the link with you guys in the comments, so keep an eye out for that, so that you can also check out the content from all of these other guys as well, the podcasts and video reports and whatnot. Just so you can share the love and get a broader spectrum of games and people's tactics and stuff than just mine, which I appreciate can be sort of monotone after a while. So anyway, we've got 5 games in this event, and the way it's set up is you have a 3,000 point list here, and then you have 2 1,500 point lists, aka detachments, and from game to game you get to kind of play a different one. So the first game is just the small game where you only play your 3,000 point lists against each other in Capture the Flags. Then round 2 you get to pick one of your detachments and you play a 4,500 point game. The same in round 4, where it's just you pick your detachment. Round 3 is a 4,500 point game where you pick your detachment, but you and your opponent swap armies. And the really cool thing, I like this scenario a lot, and especially I like it in the army swap game. You're not splitting 20 points. You're actually both able to score up to 20. Although there's no scenario, is there? No, I think this must be. Oh, for each 20. Yeah, okay. So we could both score up to 20 points in a game, depending on how many casualties you inflict. So I kind of like this because you don't kind of feel that shafted by building a good list and then having to play against your own army. It kind of just comes back to how well you play with an unfamiliar army, and it doesn't matter if your opponent. You don't have that kind of resentment like, crap, my opponent got my good list and smashed me with it, because you've still got the opportunity to score some points in return. So I quite like this. I also like that it's in the middle of the tournament. I think army swaps in general should be in the middle. If you have it too soon, I think it potentially skews the rest of the rounds, and obviously if you have it at the end, then it's just like complete potential for disaster. So, and then in the final round, we've got the grand finale where you play with both your detachments, and it's like going to be a huge dog pile game because it's capture the center and a 6x4 table with an extra 1,500 points on top of so that's another 3,000 points of bodies on the table than you'd normally have there. So that's going to be crazy. And then he's got here the tournament has 2 winners, which is whoever gets the most points, and basically the people's champion, which has no criteria other than there'll probably be a poll saying who is the coolest person in this tournament based on whatever you feel like. So if you feel inclined to vote for your old friend Bobo, then please do so. I'll post a link to the poll as well. So that's it. That's the format. It's, as you can see, it's a little bit creative. Like there's some custom scenarios in there, like the victory points one. This assassination where you get 3 battle points for killing a nominated character in the opponent's army. And then the rest is just vanilla, which I also like. I like that not everything is custom, otherwise it gets a little bit too much of a head spin. So without further ado, let me talk about my list. So you probably glimpsed this earlier when I was clicking around, but I've decided to play Dread Elves for this tournament. And right now you're thinking, I didn't know Boba played Dread Elves. Well, that is because I don't. This will be my first game with Dread Elves in 9th Age. Certainly in the Legendary Army Book version. And I'm actually curious to play the army. I've got a very nicely painted Dread Elf army that I co-own with a friend who is not actually playing Ninth Age at the moment, which means it's mine, all mine. So he dropped that off for me the other week. So now I've got a beautiful, and I have all the elves at my house. So that'll be cool. And I just think it's a really nicely written army book. It's got really good internal balance. You can see here, I actually I listened to a podcast from Henry P. Miller, and they're from the UK, and they were talking about like the themes of all the different lists, and they were trying to figure out what the theme of my list is. And they're like, oh, clearly he's gone for like an academy theme because he's got like, all these spearmen, and he's got like the Legion. He's got the Legion this. He's got the Legion officer. He's got like the scouts and this. And then they got upset because my detachments weren't as themed, and I'm like, guys, the theme is these were the units I wanted to play. So more seriously, because this is my first outing with the army, and I also think that the internal balance of the book is really good. This is largely experimental for me. I don't really care that much about winning, a small invitational like this. It's more for me about, one, having a good time, two, producing some good content for you guys, and three, really just getting to test out some different ideas that I have around the book, and also just experience as many of the units as possible. So you can see I kind of tried to take one of everything. In fact, I have no duplicates in my detachments whatsoever. You can see here, like, every line item is a new unit. Ching, 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 ching. I did duplicate some Black Cloaks and some Dark Riders, and that's purely just because when you end up at these smaller, because you're trying to build a 1500 point block of units, you inevitably need something that is smaller points to make this, a round number. So, plus there was some strategy around this as well, which I'll try and dive into a little bit later. But this is actually my second or third attempt to write a list for this event. I had one that I thought was really, really good, quote unquote, the perfect list. And it had it was similar sort of concept, because I do have in my mind kind of a vision of how this book is supposed to play, which is basically some rock solid infantry supported by mobile shooting and some killy characters and support elements, kind of cruising around and funneling people into your infantry blenders. So you can sort of see that's the theme here, and I think almost regardless of how you build your list, you're going to end up with this kind of archetype from the book anyway, because that's just how the army has been designed. But anyway, I actually had a list that was more mobile than the one I've ended up with. My perfect list had like a couple of cowboys. It had the Warlock Acolytes in a larger squadron in the actual core, in the 3K list. And in the end, what I was finding when I was building the detachments is the way that you can see here, I don't need a general in the detachments, because you don't ever play these by themselves, unlike some detachment systems. But the way that this works is that when you add the 1500 points to the 3K, it needs to be a legal army. So you can't have like 2 units of shades here and then another 2 units of shades here, because then you end up with 4 units of shades, which is illegal. And the same thing, like, you can't go over your shooting cap once you add the detachments. It needs to make, and the main thing, and I think this is probably something everyone struggled with, was every time you add a detachment, you need to make sure that you're hitting the new minimum core. So I kind of came up with the crazy idea of, hey, the Dread Elf core is really good. Why don't I just take enough core for 6,000 points in my 3,000 point list, and then I can just have whatever I want in my detachments. Not sure if this is like the right approach or not, but I think the core units are really good, and it made list building a lot simpler. So let me just go through here quickly, item by item. So I've got my general here, who is the alchemy warsmith. Now this is kind of like a little bit of a weird choice for some Dread Elf players, because normally you take this girl, potentially with the blades of Darag, and you take her with a unit of militants, because she gives this Warsmith bonus, like she makes you reroll successful armor saves at a certain value against Blaze of Darag, and like so you pay a lot of points for this ability. I don't really like the militants that much. I find they're extremely fragile. Like if you compare them to a unit of spearmen, okay, the militants are really cheap, and really killy. Don't get me wrong. Like they got battle focus, fight next to rank, the blades, whatever. Um, but fragility wise, you might think, oh, they're all res 3. What's the difference? Well, the spearmen have a 5+ armor save. The spearmen have a defensive stat 4, whereas the militants only have 3. And the spearmen also can benefit from the cover fire from the crossbowmen. So for me, those 3 things really add up to a lot of bodies saved over the course of the match. So, and then you've got little things like the academy training for the extra movement. I don't know if the extra rank comes into play that much, but bottom line, I kind of am very nostalgic about elf spearmen in general. They've always been one of my favorite units across all the elf books since 7th edition. Like, just this has always been a very iconic unit for me. I think Dread Elf Spearmen in particular are just amazingly cost effective with the quote-unquote free special rules they get, like academy training, +1 to wound, the way that spears work now with their armor piercing, and they get the extra bonuses when they get charged. I think this is just, even if they didn't have all of these special rules, I think for the points of any size, like I pretty much like spearmen in any unit size. I like him in 20s, I like him in 25s, I like him in 30 plus. Here, I just kind of picked 33 as a random number. I think that's kind of the minimum you need to make the Legion standard worthwhile, which I think is a really nice banner for 10 points for +1 combat res a lot of the time. But returning to my general, so I kind of want alchemy because this list is themed around, and this is something I've done in the past with old Shadow Magic, is just taking like basic grunt rank and file elves and then making them super good using magic. So I've got the evocation, adept to spam out spectral blades, maybe reroll to hit, maybe the -1 resilience spell, whose name escapes me right now. But then also you double up on the reroll to wound from Warsmith, so you get the blades, the Glory of Gold, and then this one. So it's kind of like pick your poison if you're the opponent. If you don't have a binding scroll, I'm probably going to get one of the reroll to wound spells in, at which point these units are like twice as good as what you expect. So I really wanted the alchemy, and I also wanted it because again, big picture thinking here, it's not just for the 3k. A lot of my choices were made factoring in what my other detachments were going to be, specifically this one here, because the Obsidian Guard and the Gorgons and even the Warlock Acolytes, these are units that have a lot of attacks, so the more attacks you have, the better buff spells become. And this is something that I've learned with Demon Legions, where previously my instinct was always to play MSU demons with a lot of small units, and I've kind of gone very much the other way, where I've identified that demons are basically a magic buff based army, so buffs become a lot better when you've got more attacks and more wounds to soak damage. So these days I tend to play much more like medium sized, even large sized units of demons, and I think the same principle is here. I mean, you can just pretend that these are Myrmidons, and you can pretend that these are Fiends, and then you've got basically a demon army. So, so my general, I don't think the 4+ Aegis in combat is enough to protect her. Me as an opponent, I would still be trying to punch her to death, so I think this Essence of Mithril is pretty much mandatory for her. And then I think she could probably get away with Blades of Darag, but I think it's just fun to have Lacerating Touch. Like, she's got 6 attacks, hitting on 2+ against any non-super elite stuff, with Strength 4, AP 3, +1 to wound in the first round, battle focus. Like, like, she's really expensive if you think of her as either just a combat hero or as a wizard. But if we price a typical adept at like 170, right, then that means she's worth 250. Now, if we say Leadership 9 General is worth, like, I don't know, 50 points, that's just pulled out of somewhere dark that you wouldn't want to go. leadership 9 for 50 points, that's like 220, which means that for like 200 points, I've got a 2+4+ combat hero with 6 attacks. For me, that's a bargain. So I kind of look at this as like the Master of Kenrick Tower, which is the obvious comparison to make because she's a wizard and a fighter and a leader. So I like this choice for 420, even without the synergies of having the other Blades units. This guy here is not as much worth the cost, in my opinion, but I basically wanted to have Battle Focus Obsidian Guard in my army because the final game of this tournament is Hold the Ground, and for that game I've always hated this scenario because I tend to play, as I mentioned, MSU kind of stuff, and so this scenario inevitably ends up with me just breaking all around the edges and trying to destroy the opponent's army and then capture the scenario in the last couple of turns of the game. So always been a bit of a challenging one for me, and given I am playing like a combat focused list, I wanted to, for once in my life, be the guy with the biggest balls and just go for the center and be like, you cannot fight me. So I decided right from the beginning I wanted to have the strongest combat unit on the board, and for me that's just hands down Obsidian Guard with potentially the Assassin, Battle Focus from this guy, and I probably won't put her in there. I think she helps the Spearman. I think she's a little bit redundant in the Obsidian Guard, but like this is I actually considered as well. I've taken Swift Stride on them. I considered taking the Executioner's Icon just to help them grind a little bit more, but not sure. Well, I guess we'll find out. I think Swift Stride and potentially Scent of Blood is very strong on a Movement 6 unit, so we'll see. If I get myself into trouble, I think it'd be easier for me to identify that I missed having the Executioner's Icon than potentially the other way around. So we'll see. So then the rest of my list is really just like, core units. I've got I already explained this logic in here. So my characters both have good protection in combat. This guy's got a 1-up armor save with the pokey spear of double combat res, which is like a really sad version of the high elf sliver, but for a bargain discount price. He's like a little bit shit because he's got Alchemist Alloy, so he's only offensive skill 4, but I don't really think this matters. I'd rather have the extra armor save. He's only got 3 attacks, so I don't really care about dropping 2 points of offensive. If he does anything with his attacks, then I'm happy. The main reason to have this guy is the Leadership 10 and the BSB, because I think in general, if you're playing an all combat or a combat focused infantry army, particularly with Elves, I think Leadership 10 is really important. Not because Leadership 10 versus Leadership 9 is such a big difference, but I bet, like I haven't got the rulebook to hand, but I'm sure if you go and check those statistics tables at the back of the rulebook, you'll see a big difference between Leadership 7 and Leadership 6. So say you lose a combat by 3, then that's, a Leadership 9 general would be taking a Leadership 6 rerollable test, which I think is like 58%, so like 4 in 10 times you're just going to fail and lose probably like a 1k unit, whereas the Leadership 7 rerollable is probably only maybe a 26% fail, just off the top of my head. Don't hold me to that, but that's just my thinking anyway, is that, like if you fail, Leadership 9 rerollable panic, that sucks. Leadership 10 is going to help a bit, but it's really for the break tests, and I think when you've got a vulnerable infantry army like this, you're going to be pushing a lot, and a lot of the time you're going to get yourself into trouble. I'm fully expecting to have some chaotic situations, and Leadership 10 might just help me hang on for that one turn I need to then send in a counter charge. Or I may still just die, it may make no difference, we'll see. I think my army is really small, I could be in quite some trouble in some games, we'll see. Then I've got my 10 Shadow Riders, which is probably a little bit of a weird choice. I think potentially 8 are going to do the same thing here, but I don't know, the extra bodies are so cheap, and I kind of had a random amount of points to spend at the end, so I decided just to grab a couple more of those, because it was like 2 more Spearmen or 2 more Dark Riders, so I thought, why not just get 2 Dark Riders, plus 2x5 looks really pretty. The Crossbowmen, who I think are one of the best units in the book, even just 15 of them puts out a lot of hurt. the Corsairs, who I'm really keen to try because, again, I think they go really well with the double reroll to wound. They can move up, shoot, stand and shoot, and then they've got agility 5 with paired weapons and potentially a buff on for 190 points. I think they're punching like way above their weight, can be really annoying to get rid of. And then the Black Cloaks, who kind of just do something by themselves. What I've found playing 3K games on a semi-normal size table is that, relatively speaking, the board size is bigger, so stuff like Fast Cab and Scouts have more room to run around on, unless the enemy army is massive. So I think, and I've got the Assassin there, who I, glazed over rather, but I think he's potentially really cool. And again, I'm just trying to try a bunch of different units to see how it goes. Same thing here. Thunder Packs, I just look at them like Brazen Beasts, who are light troops but don't score. Curious to see how they go. Raptor Chariot I think is really cool. Shadow Riders are basically in this detachment because I think what I've found with Brazen Beasts is you want a dedicated chaff piece for them because they're so charge dependent. So these Shadow Riders will probably hang around with the Thunder Pack, and just if someone's clever and decides to chaff the Thunder Pack, then I can counter chaff with this one, and then it's still me getting the charge. Standard Bearer because I like Standard Bearers, and then these guys can still fight stuff if the opportunity arises. And then I just took one of each monster just to get to try them both. I did have some silly ideas around doing like a monster spam detachment with a Beastmaster and 3 Krakens or something like that, but that's not really what I want to do for this event. And then the Sea detachment is probably the one that I will play most of the time in the 4,500 point games, unless I can find a really good reason not to. I think Obsidian Guard just look really cool. They're just killing. I think with the Battle Focus guy and a buff spell in, and don't forget here I'm introducing the 3rd Wizard Adept with either Perception of Strength or Reroll to Hit from Evocation. These guys are just absolute murder machines. They'll just kill, a lot of stuff. Same thing, the Gorgons I think are really underrated. Nice unit. And again, it's one of these armies where everything is a glass cannon. Like, if someone goes, I'm going to kill the Gorgons because I think they're really good, well, then I've got this 600 point Obsidian Guard unit, or my Spearmen with potentially an Assassin and my General, who are still pushing on you, and like meanwhile you're not clearing out my Fast Cav or my Shades. So it's kind of one of these it's a mindset change, I think, to play an army like Dread Elves, because it's not like Empire or even High Elves are a lot more durable because of the healing, the better armor saves, the hereditary, and the longer range shooting. I think with Dread Elves you kind of have to accept, okay, some of my stuff is going to die, so I'll just take a lot of good stuff, and then whatever makes it in will wreck the enemy's face. So that's kind of the overall summary of my list. In terms of strengths and weaknesses, I think I'm really good in combat, but against people who aren't that excited to fight me, maybe I would take horrific casualties on the way there. I definitely don't like snipes. That's the first thing I'll be checking the lists for, is see how many snipes people brought, because my general and my BSB only have combat protection essentially. Even these guys have no defense whatsoever. So if people bring a lot of snipes and a lot of shooting, like, cosmology is a pretty painful law for me to face, because that's 10 dead spearmen in one casting. Obviously any magic missile is going to be good against any of my units. The monsters are fairly fragile, but I'm only planning to play them for the 6K game. A quick note about bolt throwers. I really wanted to bring some bolt throwers to help kind of with chaff clearance, and I think the bolt throwers are probably the most controversial choice in the entire book. It's a very, very divisive unit. If you jump on the Dread Elf forum or talk to any Dread Elf player, you'll get people who either say they're absolutely amazing because 8 strength 5 shots just wrecks the enemy, or you'll get some people who would just say they're impossible to use because round bases just mean my whole army gets flanked and you take too many movement penalties, etc. So I kind of go back and forth from one camp to the other, where I'm like, nah, this is crap, because you're just going to end up having to move all the time because people are going to be pressuring you or they'll be in cover. and then the other part of me is like, well, just play better, and then you win. So I'm firmly Switzerland on this topic right now, which is why I'm curious to try them. In the end, I didn't take them, and the reason being that I figured by the time we get to the 6,000 point game, the table is going to be really crowded, and there's going to be a lot of bodies on there. I think the bolt throwers would struggle to get good shots, and would potentially even be a liability just getting in the way of stuff. So I decided not to take them for that reason alone. And that was kind of my thought process around this B detachment as well, which is sort of designed for the 6K game, where I figured it's going to be a big mess of units, so it might be better to have things that have low frontage and low footprint. That's why I went for kind of like these single models that can, interact with my other units and not take up too much space in what I'm predicting is going to be a fairly crowded table. So I might actually be a bit light on scoring, but like I've got 1, 2, 3 in my main force, and then the Obsidian Guard get added in here. But I think my scoring units are all really quite good, albeit a little bit slow. But I'm just going to be going forward in every game anyway, so we'll see how it goes. So let's have a quick look at what other people brought. Oh, that's great. There's a freaking Evo Wizard Master in the first list. So this is Max. I've spoken to him the last couple of weeks about the event. He's also excited about it and likes bringing funky stuff. So he said he wanted to try new stuff as well, per the tournament instructions, along with a couple of his new favorites, like these uprooted tree giants, which are probably a quirky enough choice already that no one's going to bat an eyelid. So I'm not going to go through the list in detail, but you can see like we got an Evo Master on foot, some crazy Centaur Chieftain who's probably just going to be awful to deal with a 4+ Aegis and movement 10 because of Ranger's boots. So, poor manufacturer of Ranger's boots had to make 4 boots for this guy. Yeah, he's kind of gone similar, where he's got a lot of single models for the 6K game. Minotaur Warlord, he's probably just going to be, again, horrendous to deal with. Although he hasn't got any heals for him. Like, normally the part of the pain in the ass of the Minnow Warlord is that Druidism backing him up. Like, it's just really, really difficult to get rid of him. But this is a typical max build that he came up with that's designed to counter Elves, because he's got the extra agility from here, the extra agility from here, and then I think Obscuring Fog means the enemy doesn't get agility for charging him or something like that. So it's kind of like a quirky off-the-wall build that people find hard to estimate against, because no one ever sees these items, especially taken together. So, oh, he's got 3 giants. So in the big game, he's got 3 giants, a Minnow Warlord, 2 Briar Beasts, and 2 Jabberwocks. Like, was Max ever like a proponent of battle line lists, and now he brings this? Shih Tzu, I'm sure it's pronounced a little bit more proper than that, but I'm going to call him Shih Tzu because it amuses me. He tends to bring like this poison shooting Eidolons list. Where's his? Yes, he's got the Guiding Venom Sacs Adept along with the Scouting guys. He's really good at using this list. I'm just amazed at how he gets big wins sometimes, because the army looks like absolute trash. Like 3 Hoarders, 3 Bloatflies, tiny Threshing Engine, like and 1 block. And you look at this and you go, I'm just going to eat this alive because there's nothing here. And then in 2 turns, he's just able to coordinate the units so well and the different matchups that the opponent just runs out of stuff to do. Like, it's really fascinating to watch. So I think he'll be probably one of my picks to win the battle points at least. Haven't seen this. He's obviously trying some crazy Harbinger Cowboys, and like this is a funny choice in Demon Legion's book, because if you look at the stats, then these guys actually seem really good. That you get Res 5 from this thing, you get an extra attack for you and for your mount from this thing. You get a 5+ armor save from. So I think he actually gets a 4+ armor save on the beast, and then piercing spike. So him and his mount get extra AP. So he's got like 8 Strength 5, AP 3 attacks with a 4 plus armor, 4 plus Aegis, Res 5. Like, it's pretty awesome for 300 points. What I've found is you just end up wanting to buy a unit instead because your army ends up so small. So I'm not going to go through every list in detail. I was a bit disappointed by these little threshing engines last time I tried them. He seems to think they're comparable to a unit of sirens because he uses them to charge, survive for a turn, and then that's like chaffing someone and doing a bit of damage, which is cool. And then he's just got this massive killer Myrmidon block with all of the buffs because he can go Spectral Blades, +2/+2 from Divination. He'll have reroll to hit from Divination from this guy. So I think he's obviously gone a similar approach here where he's got the Veil Serpents as well. Wow, really smart. These guys are one of the best conclaves in the game. Anyway, more Beastmen, so Gortax, Shamanism. Oh, okay. So he did the same thing. Oh no, these guys are core. Okay. And I guess these guys are core as well. Okay, smart. Wow, this is very blocky. 1, 2, 3 blocks. Those ambush. I don't know. To be honest, you look at these lists and they're kind of hard to evaluate because you just go, wow, what's in it? Stuff. Like 6,000 points is a lot of things to try to digest if you're only used to looking at 3K or 4,500 lists. So I'm not going to break my brain. I'm not even going to waste my time on cultists. Like, I will read this book if I get drawn against it. Like, nothing personal. I don't know what this does. Okay, I know what this does, but the rest is like, all right, sure. I like the supplement books because they base all of their items around existing books items. Like you can see here, he's got the Ledger of Souls, Scurrying Veil, although I don't know what that does. But yeah, and obviously he's got all these demon units, so it's like even with the same gifts. So it's easier. There's less of a learning curve for the supplement books because all this stuff already exists in the game. It's not like you have to learn completely new items. But I will still not bother reading this book until I have to play against it. Henry Miller with a probably standard-ish Elk Prince, Wizard Master on an Eagle. Okay, he's gone full cavalry for a 3K list. This is going to be hyper mobile. He's got 0 scoring units. However, this is really smart. Okay, this is the first thing I have to actually applaud because so the first mission, the only time he has to play this list is capture the flags. Now, if you don't have any scoring units in capture the flags, the opponent gets to nominate 3 units. Okay, great. So I have to nominate something that flies or movement 18 fast cavalry to try to kill in capture the flags. This is genius, absolute genius. Well done. Okay, he hasn't got a BSB, so maybe this. Oh, and these guys can even redeploy. Wow, I really wish this upon someone else for the 3K. This is just going to be horrific because he can just run around with 22 Sylvan Bows for 6 turns and kill one of your scoring units. These Wild Huntsmen can just go far away, and like anything that's fast enough to catch Wild Huntsmen will also get annihilated by Wild Huntsmen. Not to mention like the 7 strength 7 attack Prince, who can reroll failed charges, or an enemy can only flee something. No, reroll failed charges. Super cheap, durable chaff. Like this is awesome. This is absolutely awesome, and it's going to be really good because watch, he's going to add scoring units in his detachments. Because here's a bodyguard scoring unit for the other games, and here is forest rangers are kind of crap, and archers, yeah, whatever. But I'm guessing he will. I don't know if he's put a lot of thought into. Okay, he's going to play this one most of the time because it's got a BSB. So his 4,500 point list has 2 solid scoring units with 6 spells. Yeah, I mean, I just love the concept of I didn't bring any scoring units, but the first game is capture the flag, so then you get to pick 3 and they're all super mobile. I think this is really obviously thought about the format and brought a smart list for it, so well done. Sir MC, I see you around the forums, but I no idea who you are. You obviously love Great Khans with grey weapons. Tusker Cavalry, Tusker Cavalry. Okay, so it's a great weapon themed army. Okay, I've got grey weapons here. I've got a grey weapon here with Kagadai's Legacy. You didn't bring a great weapon on your Shaman. I'm disappointed. Like, talk about breaking the theme. Scrappling Trappers, Tiger. Yeah, alright, fine. This is just gonna. Yeah, like. I was about to say I'd love to see this play against the Sylvan Elves. I would still just back the Sylvan Elves. The Wild Huntsman will just kill anything they charge. Like, I don't know if you've ever played against Wild Huntsman because they're not very popular, but that unit with the Prince inside will just do like 20 something wounds on the charge. Like, this unit is gone. This unit is just gone before it attacks. Bruises, probably not so much, but he never has to fight those if he doesn't want to, probably. And then he's got, this is his obvious next attachment because he's going to bring the BSB. Maybe bringing, I was going to say bringing Banner of Discipline here for the 3k would have been smart, but he probably doesn't need to, because what's going to panic 10 bruises? Unless Tuskers flee through them, at which point, what the hell are you doing? And then for the 6k, he's added some shooting and 3 Khans with grey weapons. I think he's missing a trick, not taking pistols on these. I think the pistol Khans are really cool. They fight, they run around, they shoot. Dwarves. It's got lots of dwarves in it. Cool. Pistols, pistols. Throwing weapons, throwing weapons. Oh, jeez. Oh, what? Oh, God, that's... Okay. Another one I don't particularly want to play. Infernal Dwarves with Occultism. Okay, I'd rather play against Occultism than Pyromancy. Oh, okay. Here's the Pyromancy. Then he's got the Alchemy here. Titan. I still haven't read this book. Like, yeah, alright. He's got blunderbusses with a Bastion, which would just shoot everything to shit. And I don't know. I think he's quite decent as well. Math CD. I don't know his game that well, but he played against a friend of mine in a previous tournament, and I think Menno actually beat him. But he's played more games with Infernal Dwarves than I have with Dread Elves, so I would definitely pick him over me. Icunia, although I want to say Echidna because I'm in Australia. Oh, with this army. Okay. I think he was talking on the podcast about the theme of this list, and it's like a tunneling. Yeah, he's got like a tunneling themed list because he's got these drill teams, he's got the big drill, he's got tunneling tools, so he's going to have like the maximum number of tunnel markers. I just think like this. I played against these recently. There'll be another battle report about it somewhere. But when you put the dictator into the army and everything becomes unstable, has he got without number? I should have taken. I guess you can't play that and without number, but just making all of this stuff unstable is just so tedious. And he's got the bell as well, so everything has 6+ ages, and like. Hooray! This fetish brutes, like when they're unstable, it's just you cannot kill this unit. Just forget it. Like, you think you can, but you can't. Just trust Uncle Bobo on this one. 14 fetish brutes cannot be killed by man. Just forget. Just go around them. Let them kill like 800 points if you got to, and just try and make points somewhere else. Just forget about it. Some people are saying they think Vermin Swarm have a. It's so funny. It's such a polarizing book. I've heard some people say it's completely impossible to play against. It's OP because the army's just so stable. And then I've come across a couple of Vermin Swarm players who are like, I have to quit the army because it's so unstable. And I'm like, well, surely it's one or the other or somewhere in between. Like, it can't be both at the same time. I think anyone who complains that this army is unstable with... I'm not talking about literally unstable from the dictator, but come on, if you're failing like Leadership 7, rerollable, cold-blooded panic tests on your 1500 point bunker and going off the board, why are you taking that test? Like, what are you doing that you're taking that test? Why don't you have Banner of Discipline if you know that this is a problem? I just don't get it. I just don't get why Verminsworn players could possibly be complaining that. I mean, okay, it's an inbuilt weakness that if your general dies, then you're in big trouble. But a lot of armies have that problem. Like, I have a long and traumatic history with getting my vampire general killed, and there are ways around it. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for Verminsworn players who say the army is weak because they can't protect their general. There are ways. Tangent aside, I think these guys are cool, really underplayed. The grenade guys, this is a really weird inclusion in, not in this list, but I don't know why they made Dreadmill chariots and those Doomfire, Doomsday devices. Like, it's the same model. Anyway, Maddie, good old Maddie, brought a shoebox. Lots of Feldrax. I don't really know. 900 point warrior unit with the Zealot's banner and grey weapons. Cool. And no mark. Okay, that's really odd. I guess when you have that many, then the marks become quite expensive, and maybe the effect is kind of marginal for the cost. But I mean, sure, why not? He's got a leadership 8 general, which I don't really like in a warriors list. But I guess the Feldrax leadership 9. The wretched ones are all unbreakable, so who cares? That's me, and then we've got a crazy dwarf list here at the end with, like, look at this, freaking, at least he doesn't have throwing weapons. Okay, I'm happier about this one. He's got a cannon, which I don't care that much about. He's got rangers with crossbows, deep watch are the old iron breakers, right? And then no other shooting, so this makes me a bit happier. Like, I think these units are awesome. The 10-man dwarf units, basically with any weapon, I think are really, really cool for the price. You just pretend like they're super heavy chaff and push them around. They got leadership 9, awesome armor, can sort of fight a bit when they charge, and they're cool. Then he adds in, okay, his detachments are missing, but he adds more MSU dwarfs. It's in the private messages. I can't be bothered finding it. But yeah. I'll add the link to this lists document so that you can check these out in more detail in your own time if you like. But yeah, he's apparently some crazy maniac who loves to just spam dwarves. It's not the first time I've seen him do it. No idea if I'll enjoy playing against that or not, but I guess we will find out. This tournament is all about mad lists. So, and then Smith, who is not officially playing in the tournament, but he's put a list in case of odd numbers, like someone drops out midway through the event or can't make it to a game or something. So he's got an Empire list that he said is very unique and special and him. So it's basically just a bunch of everything. He's got a couple of really solid combat units, and then he's just going to exploit the parent support rules, because that's also a very Smith thing to do. Create chaos on the board, and then, you basically Smith's games are like, I'm going to push forward really aggressively, I'm going to get really unlucky, lose some stuff, I'm going to create this absolutely complex board state with charges, counter charges, and then we're going to have a great time, and I'll win. Like, it's really interesting to see Smith's games. He's a super talented player and really understands unit matchups, and I think what I get most from him is not only like the 1v1 unit matchups, with I think a lot of people can do the math on, but he's got a really good intuitive feel for the board state and where things at and where they can possibly progress to. In terms of, I've never seen a better objective player than Smith. Like, he will play for the mission 4 turns in advance or 3 turns in advance and something like this, even from deployment. He doesn't do any video reports, and you've kind of really got to spend some time looking at the pictures that he posts up, but it's really, really interesting to study, particularly the objective plays that he does. And his lists are always very active. He doesn't, like, even though this has got a lot of artillery and stuff, I guarantee you he'll be pushing with this. Like, he'll be halfway across the board in turn 2, because that's just how he likes to play. And this active, like, it's 9th Age is really a game for his style, because he just loves pushing and creating situations that make the opponent have impossible choices. So, plus, I mean, hopefully he's giving bonus points for compliments in this event, right? So that's it from me for this one, guys. Place your predictions. I think the first round draw is going to be up soon. Place your comments below what you think of my list, my opponent's lists, the format, what you're looking forward to. Yeah, I'm keen. I'm really hoping to be able to maintain the motivation and get some good reports out for you guys in the next couple months for this. I might do some other ones interspersed there. Hopefully, it gets my mojo for battle reports going again, because I do have a couple of events that I need to catch you up on. So that's all, and I hope this audio comes out, the audio and video comes out better, because that will be a real turning point for the channel to elevate it and give you guys a better experience. So, alrighty, I'll speak to you soon. Take care, stay safe.